Hello, basketball fans. Well, in case you haven't heard, Around the Rim podcast, which was your favorite women's basketball podcast, has now moved to YouTube. That's right. Me, your host, LaChina Robinson, and now co-host Terrika Foster-Brasby will be bringing you all of the news, analysis, highlights, stats, all that from the WNBA exclusively here on ESPN's YouTube page. We're excited about the move. You get to see us more. We know you love that. And yeah, other than that, nothing has changed, but we are pumped, right, T? To have this new platform?
Super, super pumped. We've only been asking for it for forever. And so finally, they listened to us and we're very excited about it, thankful about it. And we hope that you enjoy. We know that you're enjoying. I'm not even going to worry about it. We know you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah, we're going to keep bringing you the fun. And Terrika's still Beyonce, even though she's not a producer anymore. You know, that's still her role on the podcast. So she will be the cutest, the superstar. I'm just here to back her up, whatever she needs.
Whatever. I'm here to make sure LaChina stays out of trouble. That's number one. Okay.
Boy, and speaking of trouble, we have so many things to talk about today, but most of our conversation is going to be centered around coaching changes in the WNBA. And in fact, news just came down out of LA that in the 1/3 of the way through his 4th season as head coach of the LA Sparks, head coach and general manager of the LA Sparks, Derek Fisher and LA have parted ways. Now, the Sparks are in 8th place as of today in the WNBA with a record, I believe, of 5-7. So we are literally 1/3 of the way through a 36-game season. And Terrika, I'm gonna let you go first on this one because I have so many thoughts, but most would say the writing was on the wall. This is a very talented LA Sparks roster, including having several draft lottery picks. You've got Chiney Ogwumike, you've got Nneka, Liz Cambage, Kennedy Carter. The talent goes on and on. And this team seems to have really just not met expectations consistently. Your thoughts when you first heard about the parting of ways?
I actually wasn't entirely shocked. And I'm not sure that anyone was. But as you just stated, I feel like the writing has been on the wall for some time now. Just over the past 3 years, I haven't seen this team really produce to the level of the roster talent. Right before Candace Parker departed this team, I think we all kind of felt something wasn't right, that your WNBA champion, that your MVP, that the leader and voice of this team wanted to take her talents elsewhere. And while I do understand that there's this, the notion of playing at home and getting towards the end of your career and wanting to do some things more for you, I still felt it a little bit unnerving that you had given so much to the LA Sparks and this was a moment that you wanted to leave. A moment after which you sat on the bench for a closeout game in the NBA, in the WNBA playoffs. And so that's something that always has stuck in my head with this team over the last couple of years. I think that is a moment that kind of started the beginning of the end for Derek Fisher in this role as head coach. And so getting to now where you do have added a Liz Cambage to this roster, who in my opinion still hasn't really found her rhythm to produce as we know that she should with this team. Chiney Ogwumike, Nneka Ogwumike, Brittany Sykes, one of the best defensive players in the league. This is just way too much that we had invested in wanting to see what this team was going to look like at this point for it to still have a lot of the internal issues that I feel like it still has. So for me, it wasn't shocking to see this move happen.
See, I came into this season so excited about the Sparks. I mean, I was putting it out there. I like their moves, their roster. I really like it, quite honestly. And I was like, okay, Derek, you come in, again, bringing in Liz Cambage, huge game changer. Last season, the Sparks struggled with their scoring, their consistency on that end of the floor. You're going to get buckets from Liz. They struggled in rebounding. You're going to get that from her. They add Katie Lou Samuelson, a huge fan. I thought she was playing great in Seattle. Jordan Canada, who is an LA native, bring her back home, the pride that, she plays with, what she adds. They were finally going to get Christy Tolliver back. So many of the pieces of this roster, I was like, yes, let's go. And then we were disappointed yet again. And here is what I believe actually happened to Derek Fisher. And I know we will get into this later on as well with the Indiana Fever making an in-season coaching change. But I honestly believe that this all happened because of what I call pressure applied, okay? When you are making decisions for a WNBA team, when you are the person that's in charge of hiring coaches, GM, making changes, all that stuff, you are surveying the landscape. I wish I had my binoculars because, I'm out here amongst the sand right now. You're looking at pressure is being applied in the WNBA right now. And I'll tell you where it's coming from. It's coming from the ATL, okay? Tanisha Wright, in her first season as head coach with the Atlanta Dream. Now, this is a team that only returns 4 players from last year's roster. And I say 4, and Tiffany Hayes has yet to touch the floor. They're all-star. They're one proven player, I would say, has yet to touch the floor. 4 returning players. And this team right now is overachieving. The Dream is in 5th place. They're 7-5. Season could fall apart from here, right? They could not win another game. But when you watch that team play, they are bought in. They have an identity. They've been the number 1 defensive team in the league for most of this season so far. You know what they're looking to do on offense. They have a star in Ryan Howard. This team is like playing hard for their head coach and overachieving. Last year, they won 8 total games. They already have 7 wins. So what's happening now is teams across the WNBA are like, whoa. Atlanta didn't even have a lot to work with. And they got a first-time head coach, first year. And here they are having success. And so I think, then you're looking at LA and you're like, what is the problem? We have all the players. We have, a head coach that at this point should have his system developed. And again, win, lose, or draw, you see the direction that Atlanta is headed in. I didn't see the direction that LA is headed in. We didn't see the direction that Indiana was headed in. There was just no indication that, those teams were on the right track. So I believe that this moment happened when it did, and that we're seeing this trend in the WNBA because of how well teams like Atlanta doing. You could throw Becky Hammon in there. Becky Hammon obviously had a lot of talent, so it's a little different, like a lot of talent, but still doesn't mean you're going to win. But she came in and she's making changes. The question is now, what happens in LA, T?
Well, I think, let me back up for a second, though, because I would say, I would challenge that maybe not equal talent in terms of Vegas and LA, but I would say enough talent to have a winning record. And I'm going to step outside of the WNBA for just 1 second, because yesterday, Los Angeles also lost another head coach. The manager of the Los Angeles Angels was fired. Earlier in this season, the Lakers, their head coach was fired. LA is known for championships. LA is known for winning, right? And so when you couple that with what you just said, that pressure applied, I feel like that also plays a role. Like, you have been irrelevant in terms of serious contendership for a championship for the last couple of years. And I think that is also something that, you're not gonna sustain being in the spotlight of the City of Angels. It's not going to happen. So if you're not able to contend for a championship year in, year out, you're already causing eyes on you. Add to Tanisha Wright, add to Becky Hammon, then all of a sudden there's additional pressure. And then there's also this conversation that some of us have about general managers also acting as coaches. Some people just don't really have that ability to not only find talent, not only hone in on that talent, but to also construct a roster that will make sense for that particular team and trying to act in both roles. Some people have done it successfully. I think Bill Laimbeer was one who I believe did it successfully early on, but everyone doesn't have that. There was also questions about Derek Fisher coming into this position from the beginning. And that's not to say he didn't have his moments, but from the very moment that he took this job, and you and I actually were the first to interview Derek Fisher when he first became head coach. He gave Around the Rim an exclusive interview, and he even said in that particular interview, yes, he knows that it's new in terms of being in the women's game, but at the end of the day, basketball is basketball, and he felt he had a lot of pieces from his own career and a lot of knowledge, which he does, to bring to a team. I think we saw a lot of that buy-in in the beginning, but that buy-in is gone, and it has been gone for a while.
I don't know that I've ever seen the buy-in. And I go back to your point about him benching Candace Parker. Like, when I say see buy-in, I'm not talking about winning the press conference. Like, people can say a lot of things. Oh, we're excited. Oh, we're, that's not, no. Yeah. I just did not, when I see buy-in, to me, it's like coaches and players synergy. Everybody's on the same page, speaking the same, talking the same, have the same understanding of what's happening on the court. And when he benched Candace Parker, I was like,
that's when it was gone.
I had a physical reaction. I was like, what did we just see? Like, this is a future Hall of Famer, one of the best players that ever play. And we talk about Candace Parker's departure. What about Chelsea Gray? Like, Chelsea Gray, like, these two players will leave the game as two of the best that have ever done it at their positions. And they were like, I'm out. And LA is, on paper, the attractive franchise. I mean, when it comes to popularity ratings, people are always wondering about the Sparks. And to your point, the legacy of winning with Lisa Leslie, they're the last team to win back-to-back. So we talk about them every year. So I don't know that I ever felt like that was being upheld and that there was buy-in, because there just seemed to be a lack of understanding. And Derek Fisher was always great to talk to, was a nice guy, but I never felt like this team on either end of the floor was really on the right track. Defensively last year, yes, they were, they had their moments. And I think Candace Parker gave a lot of credit to Coach Trammell for what she brought into their defensive system, but I never saw it.
Well, you bring up what do they do next and where they go from here. And I think that's an interesting question, because y'all are going to think I'm crazy, but I think this may be an opportunity to elevate a head coach from the NCAA ranks to the professional game. Now, I know people don't usually like to see that happen. I also know that there is an abundance of coaches right now who are assistants, who are, possibly ready to make that move into a head coaching position. So I get that, but I would love to see Adia Barnes as the head coach of this Sparks team. I just feel like she brings so much energy. I feel like her style of coaching is perfect for the group that they have in LA at this moment. She's from San Diego, so there's that California connection. And I get it, like, the possibility of that happening is probably slim to none. She's doing a great job at Arizona, leaving her legacy there. They're excited about what she's doing with that program. So I'm not saying that I think she would, but putting it in the atmosphere, holla at Adia.
I mean, it's not out of the question. I agree with you. Like, Adia, the difference is she's not just a random college coach. She's a former WNBA player who's coaching in college. And so that's what makes her resume different. I honestly believe that it's hard to make that jump from college coach to WNBA coach, two different games. Like, if you haven't been scouting playing styles or overseas and stuff like that, people say basketball is basketball, but it's going to take you a while to adjust as a head coach. She's got a really good thing going on in Arizona. What I will say is, like, I look at the Sparks staff and they have elevated Fred Williams as interim coach, and 100%, like, Fred has forgotten more basketball than most of us know, right? Like, didn't have the success, obviously, he wanted to with the Dallas Wings. I saw him work firsthand at Atlanta. Hands down, is one of the best player development coaches I've ever been around in terms of how he trains players, especially on the offensive end as far as skill set. He goes back to the days of Tina Thompson, USC, all that. Like, the man is women's basketball through and through. I believe he has taken a coaching position at Auburn, so I don't know how that's going to work out as the season goes on, or when he was supposed to report there. They could have given the job to Simone Augustus, and honestly, I would have been fine with that too, because in all honesty, like, again, I go back to how Tanisha Wright has worked out. Like, Simone knows the game, right? I always said this when she was an active player. She is so articulate when it comes to the game of basketball, has a high understanding, is a great communicator. Like, I would have had no problem with them giving the job to Mo, like, especially with an interim tag to say, let's see how she does.
See how it works out.
Right. And Coach Trammell, I know, has also been a finalist for, some opportunities in the WNBA, but I don't see how she would jump Fred Williams or Simone Augustus as an interim coach when those two have the experience that they have in this league. Moving forward, though, I'm going to say very quickly, absolutely, there are many assistants in the WNBA that could step into a head coach role in LA. I'm going to bring back a name. I really like was wondering what happened to Amber Stocks, who was on the staff for LA when they won a championship, had a short stint in Chicago, like someone that I would just love to know where she is and how some of the Sparks players that were a part of that team would feel about her coming back and possibly getting another opportunity in the WNBA. But that's just a random name I wanted to throw out there that, hey, I watched her work in practice. I thought she was excellent in scouting and a lot of things that she did.
Yeah, absolutely. I do remember chatting with her a little bit when she was in Chicago, and you're right. Like, that's an interesting point. I totally forgot.
Yeah, she had a short leash in Chicago. I don't think she really had the opportunity to really,
So as we continue this coaching conversation, I want to play a little game, LaChina. I want to play a little game of hot and cold, right? So I'm going to throw out some coaches, new coaches, some of which I'm not even going to say new. I'm just going to throw out some coaches. And I want you to tell me your thoughts on whether or not these coaches are hot in terms of really getting the job done, having their team buy in, some of the things that you've previously mentioned, or cold, like maybe they haven't quite gotten there yet, they're missing the mark completely, or, you know, we'll give them some more time to figure it out, right? So you kind of already touched on this with Atlanta, but just really quickly, Tanisha Wright, hot or cold?
Hot, fire hot. Like they were about to push Seattle to the limits last night on the road, and had they not lost Erica Wheeler, we don't know. But red hot, great hire.
Red hot, yes. Carlos Knox in Indiana.
Verdict's still out, but I like the move. I think Carlos has obviously previously been a part of the FIBA organization, understands Lynn Dunn and her identity and her expectations, and they're very in line. And I think that's important for GM and whoever's making the decisions. I think Lynn Dunn is wearing all the hats right now. But it's important for those two people to be on the same page. And I believe that, you know, Carlos has an understanding of that. The response of the players to him and watching him teach in the midst of a game, like that is a young team. They need like to be taught. They're not pros yet, like many of them, right? Like they had 4 picks in the first round. Like they need someone that's going to really be a teacher. And I've seen those moments with them, but you can't say because, you know, he's only had a little while at the helm. So Verdict's still out.
I agree. Love that move. Love that move. Just love their response to him when he won his first game. It was great. Phoenix, Vanessa Nygaard.
I'm going to say that I am warm, but trending cold on Vanessa. And what I mean by that is like, I think she has been put in a really difficult situation, right? Like everything obviously with Brittany Griner. And let me just say this real quick. I know we only have a couple minutes on this, but one thing about Phoenix that I think people don't understand, there is the emotional side of not having Brittany Griner, but there's also the X and O side of not having Brittany Griner. We have discussed the Skylar Diggins-Smith and Diana Taurasi interaction, and who knows what that all was about. But what I do know is that everything on the floor has changed for that team. The spacing, you don't have your pick and popper, you don't have your rim protector, you don't have the best player in the world. And so I'm sure frustrations are mounting in terms of how much that team has had to change stylistically, you know, without Brittany. And we are BG.org while I'm talking about Brittany, please, we need to get her home. But that aspect of it has changed everything they thought that team was going to be. Then you bring in Diamond DeShields and Tina Charles. That's a lot to put on one page with Skylar, with Diana. And it just doesn't look like that's happened. And that's why I'm trending towards cold, because I'm like, it seems like these things are kind of collapsing on this team. And will they be able to shine under the weight of everything that they have going on? You know, we still don't know the status of what happened with Diana and Scott. They look like they're fine, whatever. But all of that takes energy, it takes synergy, it takes chemistry out of your team. Yeah. And I don't know. What do you think?
I am struggling to find a silver lining at this moment for everything that you just mentioned. Even though Brittany isn't one who has been extremely vocal publicly when she is here, she is one who I have personally seen be vocal with her teammates. And so I think even not having that voice with bringing in new players is something that's missing, because there is a struggle with chemistry among Phoenix. And regardless of if there is this public view that whatever Skylar and Diana had going on, that it's not there anymore. I do not at all believe that it's truly not there anymore. I think it's a public facade. And so Vanessa really has a lot coming in. And then you couple that with the fact that a lot of people wasn't even understanding of her hire in the very beginning. And that doesn't take anything away from her ability to coach or to do this job, but just that it came as a surprise that you would let go of Sandy Brondello, who has been solid for your club for many years, off a season in which they reached the WNBA finals to bring in Vanessa Nygaard, it was weird. And another head coach that wasn't necessarily in your organization seriously. Like, I thought if you were going to change coach, maybe you give it to Chastity Melvin or something, but so it caught me completely by surprise. So there's a lot that's going on in Phoenix at this moment.
Well, and I know we got to go. We won't get to all the coaches on this episode. Yeah. We will have to continue this, but I just want to say real quick, that's another reason why Derek Fisher got fired, because LA just lost to Phoenix, and Phoenix had lost 7 games in a row. So I want to throw that out there. 1-5 on the road. But to your point, T, I think I said when this job was open, this is going to be the hardest job to fill, period, because of the expectations, because you're coaching Diana Taurasi, who could be a head coach of any team right now, her own. Skylar Diggins-Smith, very high basketball IQ. Like, both players are very strong in how they feel about the game and could take your clipboard and run the plays for you. And so you really have to come in and be a certain type of personality. I don't know if I can really pinpoint what that is, but you needed to really come in and be someone who could deal with all the dynamics. And again, I will say, I think Vanessa's in a tough situation, but we moving. Yeah. Well, guys, thank y'all for joining us for our first YouTube episode of Around the Rim. We have so much more to come. We'll continue this coaching change conversations because there's a couple other angles we want to dive into. But if you want to hit us up on Twitter, I'm at LaChina Robinson. Terrika is at She Knows Sports. Or you can hit us at Around the Rim Pod. We're also on Gmail at aroundtherimpodcast@gmail.com. So we will see you next week. Until then, watch the WNBA. Terrika, you trying to match my nail color?
I'm green.
It looks yellow from where I am. It looks a little limeish. See y'all.